A little bit of a special video today. I got hands-on with all of the Arnold & Son watches that will be displayed at the 2023 WatchTime event here in New York City, happening in about 2 weeks. So I got hands-on with all of the watches that they will be displaying at WatchTime, some new releases as well. I also got to check out some Angelus releases, so I'm very excited to share those with you in this video. Let's flip the camera and take a look at some Arnold & Son and some Angelus watches that will be displayed at WatchTime 2023. So as I mentioned in the intro, I got a little bit of a preview of the watches that will be displayed at WatchTime 2023 here in New York. If you are not familiar with WatchTime New York, it is a big event here in New York City. It's basically watch weekend when they are doing this event. There are tons of brands that display at WatchTime. Most of those are independent, but they also have some major brands as well, like Arnold & Son. And I got a preview of all of the watches that they're going to be displaying during the event. So I'm going to start with some of my favorites. It's definitely the Moonphases from Arnold & Son. I really love their True Beat watches as well. However, I think these are almost art pieces. They are beautiful, especially their 3D Moonphase. But I'm going to start with their more traditional Moonphase. That is their Perpetual Moonphase. I got to see one in platinum and one in gold. One was a ice blue dial and the other was more of a royal blue dial. This has a lacquered dial that gets a 3D sunray effect that is really raised off of that dial, and a very large Moonphase display. These come in at around 41.5 millimeters. They're not very thick. I think they're around 10 millimeters thick, and you get a beautiful mother of pearl moon on here that is actually covered with super luminova. So these are actually loomed, so you could see these moons at night, and it is a very large, almost photorealistic moon, and you get that super luminova, and then there's a starry night that's sitting on, and they come in at around $48,000, $48,300. However, if we're talking about beautiful moon phases, the next watch that I'm about to show you is probably one of the most beautiful moon phases ever made. It's in a 44 millimeter platinum case, and this is a very substantial watch. You have a beautiful sand colored meteorite dial. The hour and minutes actually do get lume on this, and you get an opal dial. So that little dial at the 12 o'clock position is actually made out of opal, and then you have a beautiful large 3D moon at the 6 o'clock position. That is also made out of that sand colored meteorite. That's half of the moon, and the other half is also in opal. This is loomed. This is an incredible watch. Obviously, all of the movements here that I'm going to be talking about are actually made by Le Jeu Perret. Le Jeu Perret are essentially the brand that makes both of these watches. They are owned by the Citizen Group. However, these two brands, Angelus and of course Arnold & Son, are basically autonomous. They do what they want, and everything is manufactured by Le Jeu Perret. The price on this Moonphase, this large Moonphase with the opal dial and the meteorite, is $73,500. So this is sort of in hyper watch territory, but it is absolutely gorgeous. Next, we're going to talk about two Tourbillons. These are around 41.5 millimeters. However, they're actually very thin. I would say they're around 9 millimeters thin. There are two elements to the dial. So you have a beautiful opaline dial. It is basically an all white dial. There really isn't anything else on the dial except for that white area. And then you have a dial up at the 12 o'clock. That is, of course, the hour and minutes. And then down below that at the 6 o'clock, you have almost an equally sized aperture that shows you the tourbillon. The two that I got to take a look at were both in red gold or rose gold, and they again get a titanium and rose gold buckle, very thin. Again, going with this watch, it's actually a very thin tourbillon. The other version that I got to take a look at is a cosmic blue dial. This is a very special dial. It's made with platinum powder that they mixed with colored aluminum sparkles. So when you look at this dial, there is tons of light play. You also get a mother of pearl sub dial on here. So like I was saying before, at the 12 o'clock, you have that hour and minutes. That's in a mother of pearl. And then again, same as the other watch with the opaline dial, you have that large aperture at the 6 o'clock, and that is the display of the tourbillon. Both of these watches, of course, get an Arnold & Son 8300. and these get 100 hours of power reserve. They are hand wound, and you get 30 meters of water resistance. These are around $76,000 for that blue dial, and around $72,000, $73,000 for that white opaline dial. The next watches that we're looking at are the Nebulas from Arnold & Son. These are skeletonized watches that are sort of space inspired. They're very symmetrical skeletonized watches. One of them had a blue dial, so the parts that are actually blue in the movement are ADLC. When you look at these watches, they're extremely symmetrical. They basically arrange the dial to be as symmetrical as possible. These are hand wound. They get 90 hours of power reserve. Of course, you can see the movements from the back. They're 30 meters of water resistance. I got to see a stainless steel version on a bracelet, and of course, one in gold. The one that is in gold, I think, is limited to 88 pieces. That comes in at around $32,100. And the most affordable watch on this video, I think, is the stainless steel version on the bracelet that came in at $17,600. And I have to say, it is no slouch. It looks as good as all of the other watches that I got my hands on, except for maybe that Moonphase, that 3D Moonphase, which is just a showstopper. Last but not least, from Arnold & Son, one of my favorite watches, a watch that I have featured on my channel a few times, the Trotter. However, this time in gold. This is a very big, very heavy watch. You have a beautiful domed sapphire crystal on here. It's in 45 millimeters. These are very thick because of that sapphire crystal, but you do have half of a globe that sits on that dial. That dial is actually loomed. That globe is actually loomed, and the hands are also loomed, so it actually looks amazing at night. This one is in 18 karat rose gold. It is powered by the Arnold & Son 6022. That's an automatic movement. And of course, that superluminova, when it kicks in, when it gets dark, it's the shores of all the continents that are actually loomed. So you get this outline of the map when it's dark out. A very cool party trick on this watch. It's almost like MB&F light, because this comes in at around $53,900 in gold. However, if you get it in stainless steel, these are around $20,000. If you don't need gold, obviously, you can save a lot of money, and the stainless steel versions look just as good. I also did get to take a look at some of the Angelus that will be on display at WatchTime. They didn't have a ton of them, but I did get to take a look at the Chronodate. This is obviously a revival of the original Chronodate from Angelus. These watches are really interesting. You have these hollowed out cases. There's certain areas that are PVD coated. I got to take a look at the titanium version and the gold version. The titanium version on a strap or the bracelet was $23,000. In gold, it's $43,000. I would highly recommend checking these out on a bracelet. The bracelet that they came up with for this watch is amazing. There's micro adjust built into the bracelet itself. I think I'm going to do a complete video on these watches. The bracelets are phenomenal. I also got to take a look at the Angelus Chronograph Medical MASSENA Lab. If you are not familiar with this watch, it was released a few months ago. This was a collaboration with MASSENA Lab. Again, this is a revival of one of their historic watches. Because Angelus is a historic brand, they have tons of watches to draw from. This is one of them. This is really a faithful recreation of that original watch. It gets a beautiful hand-wound caliber. The A5000 gets a power reserve of 42 hours, 30 meters of water resistance. It's actually very vintage feeling when you have it in your hands. Anyway, guys, that's really it. Lots of watches that I got to get hands on with. I'm going to be at WatchTime New York this year. I'm going to be there probably all 3 days. So if you have not gotten your tickets, definitely go and get your tickets. I believe they still have tickets available for Saturday and Sunday. It's open to the public. I love WatchTime. It's a really great time to not only take a look at watches, but also socialize with tons of people who are into watches, make lots of friends, and look at great watches the entire time. Anyway, guys, thank you for logging on. I will catch you guys in the next video.